Hello, my name is Kimberly, and today I'm doing my research presentation on the movie Unpregnant, which follows two teenagers who are on a coming of age journey, each with their own problems to deal with. I'll be more so focusing on Veronica, who is on the left side of this poster, and her struggles and the journey that she goes on to get an abortion. And I think this movie is a good choice in how it represents abortion in the media today. So my main argument for my research presentation is that Unpregnant promotes false misconceptions of abortions by perpetuating the stereotypes that have been and is still represented in media today. But what I think this film does differently is that they also represent the real struggles that people aiming to get abortions go through. To support my main argument, the first point I would like to make is how abortion is portrayed in media because it's very different from how abortion is shown in real life. Because in media, it seem like they like to underrepresent what types of people are actually getting these abortions. To make this point more clear, the first point that I would like to make is teenagers versus adults. So many films that talk about abortion and have abortion in them has a teenage character going through an abortion versus an adult going through an abortion. Even though statistically adults ranging from the ages 20 to 29 make up 57% of the women who go get abortions, even though that's not shown in film as often as teenagers are shown. This shows that adults are underrepresented and teens are overly represented, even though it is false to the idea of who are actually going out and getting many of these abortions done. The second point that I would like to make is white versus BIPOC people. And similar to teenagers, white people are tend to be the people who play these characters who are getting abortions. We never see a black person getting a child aborted. We don't really see people of color getting a child aborted. It's typically a white person. Now, in this case, this is underrepresenting every color person who does typically get abortion because statistically white people in actuality in real life to go to abortion clinics only 36% of them get abortions while BIPOC people make up 50% of people who go and get abortions. But how come that's never shown within the light of media? Interesting. But only 5% of fictional ones of BIPOC people are shown, while in fictional films, white people make 87% of people who are getting these abortions. So that's showing how BIPOC people are underrepresented compared to how white people are overly represented, even though that statistic doesn't match. The third point that I would like to make is socially economically privilege versus poverty. It seems like in films they show middle class and upper class people getting abortions versus people who are like below the poverty level getting abortions. And that could be seen in this film as well, which I will talk about once we're done with points. But these people who get the abortions in films tend to be 82% of them in the upper and middle class who are able to afford and get these abortions versus in real life where over 40% of people and women in the US who get abortions are below the poverty line, which shows that they're not representing the people who are actually going through the struggle of, well, the main struggle, like many of the people who are going through struggle of abortion and going and getting that abortion. And lastly, the fourth topic or point that I would like to make to support how media falsely portrays abortion is the legal restrictions on abortion and how easy it is to kind of bypass those to get abortion access. And these regulations tend to be parental consent requirement, a parental notification requirement, a mandated script read by a physician before the procedure, and a mandated waiting period. And in films, they make it seem like those are very easy to go past and it's very easy to earn money to pay for these abortions, even though it's not. So, to get a better example of these points that I made, we are going to be looking at these three images that I have displayed here. The first image is the main character, Veronica, who, in explaining two of my points, is a white teenager who is going through an abortion process, and she's trying not to let her parents know about it, and it's insane. But to do so, it shows that in this film, white people and teenagers are the main representation in the abortion industry, even in 2020. And another point is that we can take up is in her room, it seems to be more of a middle class room. Doesn't look like she lives in poverty. She has her own room for herself, nice bed sheets, good lighting. It doesn't seem too bad compared to some other people's financial circumstance, which follows the stereotype that media places on abortions. Continuing with this, I thought this film was an interesting aspect on kind of breaking the stigma in a sense of poverty and privilege versus and legal restrictions on abortion, because in the film she does not want her parents to know that she's getting abortion, and a legal restriction on abortion is getting parental consent. And so she tries to figure out how to get to a clinic, especially because she's 17, to get this procedure done. And so she kind of just goes on a journey, tries to find her own money. As you can see, she's picked up all these coins from her coin map. And then you have her trying to figure out what's the closest abortion clinic from her. So she was striving to get the money on her own terms versus, like, let's say a parent or a third party. It was all her own money that she kind of just gathered in her house and trying to meet that pay, while at the same time breaking legal restrictions by traveling to a whole different state to get the procedure done, which is different from getting, is harder to do than just getting parental consent and just bypassing kind of how these legal restrictions are placed on us. So I thought that was very interesting part of this film that they chose to display. To continue my main argument, Unpregnant creates a lot of false misconceptions that has been perpetuating stereotypes within the media, as well as other films who have similar themes with having teenagers, white people, some upper and middle class people, and easy to bypass legal restrictions. And that in itself is not the reality that many people who do have abortions face. And in that sense, it seems as though those people are underrepresented in media. So I would like to mention that even though the film does perpetuate these stereotypes, there's some things that I believe they did well, as I mentioned before, showing how financially difficult it was to achieve abortion and what legal restrictions it was. But another thing that I think Unpregnant does well compared to other films that represent abortion is representing social barriers. And a quote that I would like to take from Norris's research in Abortion Stigma, a Reconcepulation of Constituents, Causes, and Consequences is this. Abortion stigma is a negative attribute ascribed to women who seek to terminate a pregnancy that marks them internally or externally as inferior to the ideals of womanhood. According to this definition, women who have abortions challenge social norms regarding female sexuality and maternity. So in this sense, it pretty much shows how abortion stigma perpetuates our media and how people view themselves culturally and socially in regards to abortion and having done an abortion. In this case, our culture and society kind of construed how we thought womanhood is. So that's like being a homebody, staying at home, taking care of kids, raising kids, feeding kids, and doing things that a quote mother would do, a woman would do. And being a mother is one of the things that people label as what womanhood signifies. And when women get abortions, it kind of devalues their meaning, or they feel like they're not able to tell anyone because of this stigma regarding abortion surrounding them. And the first 3 points that I would like to, or the 3 points that Norris talks about that I would like to mention is women's awareness, internalization, and experiences. And all these three things help influence and continue to perpetuate this abortion stigma. So a woman's awareness is when a woman can sense and feel as though if they did come out with abortion, the people around them are just going to devalue how they feel, what their answer is. Like, you shouldn't get this. This isn't what you should do. This isn't appropriate. You destroyed God's name. Things like that, that people kind of influence and try to make a woman feel downplayed from what they actually are, saying you're not a woman, or feeling the people's attitudes towards you as that you're not a woman and you are not these things because you did this procedure for yourself. The second thing I would like to mention is internalization, and this is when a woman continues to devalue themselves internally from our social norm beliefs and attitudes in relation to abortion because of these placements that we have in our society of no, because you're a woman you have to do these things, because of this you have to do these things. Not doing those things kind of internalizes in a woman that, oh, maybe I am not this type of person. Maybe I am a this demon. I am this woman. I am this person who destroyed a life. Things like that kind of leads to them having the shame and guilt and negative feelings that for their self-image that they're not able to come out and tell people about this in real life. And the last thing I would like to talk about is experiences of discrimination and treatment from others. And this could be physical, mental, but this is from other people. Let's say it's your boyfriend who wants you to keep the baby. Maybe it's your friends who are trying to find out who's this girl who got a pregnancy done in high school. Things like that kind of continue to make a woman feel sheltered and that they're not able to come out their answers. And I think that it kind of shows the disapproval of others, especially in this film Unpregnant, in which there were many situations in which the main character, Veronica, faces a lot of disapproval from different people, whether it was her very religious parents, the pro-life people who kind of kidnapped her, her boyfriend who wanted her to keep the baby, who was a mess, who did things to her that she did not want to happen, and her friends that she can't come out to because she's afraid of what people will think of her after she admits that she has an abortion, in which throughout the film she continues to say that's a procedure, even going as far as pretending to be someone else on the phone calling an abortion clinic rather than herself, and talking as herself getting the abortion. According to Ashbury Ward's research on stigma, abortion, and disclosure findings from a qualitative study, her research explores a range of women aged from the teenage years all the way into adult and the older years, and how they felt getting an abortion and how they felt surrounding the abortion stigma in regards to them getting one. And many of them mentioned that if they were afraid of the backlash, and many were silent. None of them feel like they're able to even talk to their close family members about the problem. Like one of the participants who had an abortion 20 years ago before meeting her husband, and she still feels as though she's not able to talk about it, and they feel as though society places onto them, if they did come out and talk about it, that they are baby killers, murderers, not fit to be a woman. And they're worried about this disapproval that they can receive from others and be kind of isolated within their society. And others say that doctors were also very judgmental during their procedure getting abortions, either having attitudes or trying to give them a weird vibe, things like that, which I think helps influence or go towards this abortion stigma and how women, real women, feel in our society regarding abortion. On my research, I can connect some theories and concepts that we learned in class, like the cultivation effect theory from the Campbell chapter, in which it talks about how television makes people believe that the reality in their world is the same as the one that is portrayed on television. And what I mean by that is many of the televisions in regard to abortion talk about white teenage females who are in the upper middle class, while in reality it is adults who are in the poverty level in the lower class section, and they are BIPOC people. And this shows that television is kind of putting out there a false portrayal of what type of people are going through abortions, but it makes people in real life who have those experiences believe that, oh, because they're not a teenager, it's not valid, or because they are not this age, it's not the reality because of the thing that TV shows and media are pushing to be the reality. The second thing I would like to talk about is social class and gradient, because in many cases of abortion, people in different classes in media tend to be middle, upper class, who are the ones getting abortions, but typically it is the working class people who are getting these abortions done, and the stereotypes that they put on the working class on media isn't typical of getting abortions. It's mainly things like eating frozen foods or listening to rock music. So in that sense, it does a really bad representation of the working class and the social class in media, as they are falsely representing how abortion is in media to the social class. And the last thing that I would like to talk about is agenda setting, in which mass media tries to make people pay attention to a certain and focus on certain things. In this case, they want people to focus on abortions and the type of fictional characters that are actually getting these abortions rather than the real life people, which kind of shows like this is how the world works, this is how um, we're supposed to be doing these things, in which we want these people, these white teenage people, to represent what is abortion in today's day and age, which is kind of pushing out there that this is what it is and this is how it has to be. It can't be any other way. And so, in that case, that's where I think I've learned the most about my theories and the concepts that I've had. Concluding thoughts of my research is that what I've learned is that media very falsely represents how abortions are in real life. Because originally I thought that media did a pretty good job as of recent in showing abortion in media, as it was taboo and it wasn't socially acceptable back then. But now it's been more frequent. But even though it's more represented in media, the inaccuracies of the type of people that is represented is very wrong. And I feel like there should be more media out there that displays other people of color and people that are adults, rather than these stereotypes that don't meet the same quota that reality does have. Another thing, some interesting facts that I learned is that media tends to display abortions as very hard to do, in the sense that if you have abortion, there's a potential that you can die, even though in reality it's much more easier and it doesn't really have those life endangering effects. And in media, when they do display life endangering effects on abortion, it's typically for BIPOC characters who are going through abortions, and that kind of makes it seem as though those characters or those people in real life shouldn't go get abortions because of the risk and how dangerous it is, and it seems like they themselves don't need an abortion. So I kind of learned that from my research, and how a lot of media, yeah, falsely displays that. So if I had more time, I think the thing I kind of want to explore is pro-life in media, which is interesting because through my research, I found out that pro-life within the media is falsely represented as well, as it's not as aggro as many people make it seem in the film, especially in Unpregnant, with a person with a giant baby on a van chasing them down saying, oh, you have to get rid of this kid. And I found more articles and more things about pro-life represented in media and how it's kind of construing them as evil characters. So I think it would be interesting to kind of have the opposite of abortion in a presentation and talk about how Unpregnant also talks about or displays pro-life in a negative light when it in all it's not really that. But I also think that the film explores different aspects besides abortion that we consider still kind of somewhat socially unacceptable, such as being a lesbian or having these parents that are kind of doesn't care about you after divorce, things like that. It explores a lot of deep topics, so I think I would either do that or I would explore more into the pro-life aspect and how that is represented. And thank you for listening to my presentation. Sorry it was really long. So this is my bibliography. If you're interested in seeing the articles and journals that I was looking at and the movie link right there if you want to watch it yourself. But yeah,